Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at InvestYRefy.com. Invest in America like I do, and by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are currently using, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And be sure to patronize our sponsors. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well...
No rules. What?
We know where you live. Biden out. Kamala in. Democrat donations pouring in. DEI director of the Secret Service out. Elon Musk says his trans daughter was killed by woke mind virus. All of that and more.
We see something that said, take a look at what happened.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
The sea, let it be filled with tomorrow. Body holy, sing song, sing song, sing it out.
I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here.
Well, the Dems, by that I mean Pelosi, Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Obama behind the scene, took Biden out in the boat and whacked him like Fredo.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now.
You know, but some people noticed something in that little address. The time on Joe Biden's watch did not match the time when this address was made, allegedly live, indicating it was pre-recorded, not live. Well, the era of post-assassination goodwill didn't last long.
And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell. both as a sitting president, getting legislation passed, as well as in campaigning. You know, what we still need to save this democracy. And Trump is still a danger to the community, he's a danger to the nation.
Suddenly, Biden, mugged and kneecapped by the party leaders to get out of the race, became a statesman. Let's interview stonecutters to chisel his face on Mount Rushmore. And Kamala Harris has become a combo of Joan of Arc, Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman.
Breaking news. President Biden has just announced that he is ending his re-election bid.
Now, we'll all remember where we were and what we were doing at this moment.
Him watching the waves at Rehoboth Beach, down the street from the boardwalk and the ice cream stand.
Joe Biden has been one of the most consequential and transformative presidents this country's ever seen.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
What a man. What a patriot.
This is leadership. This is patriotism.
This is a day for Joe Biden.
He can read a poll. He can read a room. He can read a nation.
His heart is as big and as true and as strong.
He has been a phenomenal president.
The president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party.
Vice President Harris, she is now perhaps the most important political figure in the United States.
That backbone of the Democratic Party, black women.
She's somebody who I think has an incredible ability to go out and inspire people and to get them excited about her.
This injects energy.
The Democratic Party will now unify like nothing you have seen from this party in many years.
It's a question of whether or not you want to go backwards with Donald Trump or forward with Kamala Harris.
The Democratic Party is a family. At the end of the day, this is a family matter.
So, Cleveland, you got to be pretty psyched about President Obama, huh?
What?
Well, I mean, you remember how a lot of people said, like, oh, Obama's not going to be able to do it, but he's hanging in there.
Peter, it's Obama.
Hey, you Obama, me Obama, we Obama, who cares? It's a black guy in a suit. Let's just marvel at that.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with Yrefy, and they don't care about what happened with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrefy.com. That's investyrefy.com. Yrefy, do well by doing good. Now, supposedly, almost immediately after the announcement that Biden is dropping out and endorsing Kamala Harris, Democrats raised some $81 million in small donations through ActBlue. But did they really?
OMG has a mole inside ActBlue, the Democratic fundraising organization, who told us that the group was having a secret meeting at a Boston hotel. Well, we went to it. The meeting took place at a high-end hotel called the Colonnade, so we checked into a room. The first thing I did was strike up a few conversations with ActBlue staffers. I told them I was a friendly donor, and I didn't mind if the organization used my name and address to launder money into candidate coffers.
I'm a supporter. I'm a donor to you guys. I gave you $500, so.
Sweet.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
You can use my grandmother too. You can use her name if you want.
That's cool.
You remember our stories from earlier this year about ActBlue's fundraising practices. We found a handful of donors who gave small amounts to ActBlue, but when ActBlue reported the donations to the Federal Elections Commission, something didn't add up. We wanted some answers. We spoke to Nancy Duden, the retiree from Maryland, who said she only donated a couple of $100 to ActBlue since January. How much does ActBlue claim she has donated this year? More than $16,000. Nancy wasn't the only seemingly unaware retiree being used to mask these donations. Garland Riggs, an older gentleman who lives outside of Washington, D.C., says there's no way he has given ActBlue $230,000 in the past 4 years. Carolyn Lenz from Tucson, who apparently given ActBlue $170,000 in the past several years. But luckily, we were able to make contact with some ActBlue staffers while on the inside. One staffer told me to talk to her communications director.
Hi. How you doing? You with ActBlue?
Yes.
Hi, I'm James.
Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Kathleen.
James O'Keefe.
Okay.
Do you know who I am? We did a story in March about ActBlue, and they were given thousands of contributions to different people and different names.
Yeah, sorry, I can't.
How do you explain that to people?
I can't speak to that.
How do you explain that to people
above
who...
my pay grade.
Above your pay grade?
But...
Thanks.
We do have a, reach out to our...
We've tried.
Our source within ActBlue witnessed all types of activity inside the conference rooms, including group discussions regarding challenges and ideas internally at ActBlue. There was also ideas on the FEC filing data. There were some discussions about what they called dummy accounts, discussions about more time in the turf, artificial intelligence, interdepartmental collaboration, partnership negotiation guidance, donor-specific homepages, caucus relationships, their training content library utilizing YouTube and TikTok videos, post-election cleanup processes, and standardization processes.
Are you with ActBlue? Regarding the money laundering, are you with ActBlue? Are you with ActBlue? Your conference, are you with ActBlue, ma'am? We've uncovered thousands of contributions made in the names of what are called Smurfs on the FEC website. You guys this is all part of the ActBlue conference. Everyone you're looking at, get their faces. They're all employees. See how they're turning around, they're laughing. They all work for ActBlue. Ma'am, what's your name? Why do you guys want to keep this a secret, what you're doing? This is maybe one of the biggest stories of donations and elections ever. Thousands of contributions on the FEC website. We talked to people in Maryland who told us that they didn't make those donations. Yet your website, ActBlue, listed as the pass-through for this money. Do you work for ActBlue? Do you work for ActBlue? Sir, do you work for ActBlue? He's shocked, shell-shocked. You guys wanted to have this conference in secret, but the public has a right to know. Here come the security guards here. One thing we noticed right away was the amount of security present. A security guard named Patterson, who worked as a subcontractor there for the ActBlue conference, grilled me about why I was there, whether I had stayed at the hotel before, and took a picture of my driver's license. It was highly unusual.
Now, according to MSNBC Hee-Haw, how does Kamala Harris fare against Trump?
Steve, all along the polls were really neck and neck between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, although there had been some slippage for President Biden after that debate. How does Kamala Harris fare against the former president?
I mean, the short answer is not really any better. Take a look at this. This is the average of all the polls you're talking about there since the debate that tested Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. Trump 47%, Harris 46%. In this same set of polls, when it was Joe Biden, 47% for Trump and 45% for Biden. So the Democratic number on average goes up from 45 to 46. But I think it underscores for Democrats, they view this move as something that's going to improve their chances in the general election. That is based more on hope than it is on the numbers right now.
The same media that told us Biden, sharp as a tack, energetic, we can't keep up with him, at the top of his game, is the same media that now tells us Kamala is sharp, energetic, and at the top of her game. And so it begins. Kamala Harris is now a cross, as I said earlier, between Joan of Arc and Rosa Parks.
I am smiling because, one, yes, Democrats are extremely excited right now. But this moment, we were talking about this in the green room, honestly, the calls that I've been getting beyond the Beltway, this really feels like Obama 2008 when my dad was running around saying fired up and ready to vote. The coalitions that are already swelling. You all have talked about the black woman. Well, the black men have just been texting me. They had 36,000 people on the call, raised $1.1 million in 3 hours. The Latinos are organizing. The AAPI groups are organizing, self-organizing. The excitement is here. And when she talks about unity, it is bringing these factions together. I think there's so many factions of our party, progressive, moderates, who are like, look, we're going to disagree after we get her in office because we know who we have to beat, but we also know the platform that we can run on, and folks are confident with her at the helm.
Look at this article in the New York Times. They were scared to death that a self-described Democrat socialist became the frontrunner. Oh my God, he won Nevada, he won Iowa, he won New Hampshire, and coming up, South Carolina. What to do? What to do? Even Pete Buttigieg slammed him and said, this guy cannot win. Don't make him the front runner. We need to cool our jets and nominate somebody who's a moderate. That's how they ended up nominating Joe Biden. So consider the irony here. Biden becomes the nominee. Why? Because Sanders is way too far to the left. Well, guess who had a Senate record more left-wing than Sanders? Kamala Harris. Can you just feel the irony? GovTrack is an organization that tracks congressional voting records. And it confirmed that it removed a 2019 webpage that ranked Kamala Harris as that year's, quote, most liberal senator within the last 2 years. Guess what? The webpage that rated her the most liberal senator in 2019 suddenly, poof, disappears. If you weren't following the news, a massive hit to the U.S. dollar came in June when Saudi Arabia did not renew its 50-year petrodollar deal with the U.S. You see, since 1974, Saudi Arabia has sold oil solely in U.S. dollars, and that was huge to our global economic dominance. Now they want options other than the U.S. dollar. So I ask you, if there is less demand for the dollar, what happens to the dollar? Look, it's reasons like this that Americans turn to Birch Gold Group. For over 20 years, Birch Gold has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA into physical gold. To learn more, visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Again, visit LarryForGold.com. Birch Gold has earned my trust with their education-first approach, their thousands of happy customers, and their countless 5-star reviews. Protect your savings with gold before the dollar plunges any further. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com today. Maxine Waters.
And guarantee to the American people, because of the inaction of the United States Congress, ever increasing prices unless the demand comes down, and the $5 will look like a very low price in the years to come if we are prohibited from finding new reserves, new opportunities to increase supplies.
And guess what this liberal would be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
Kerosene Maxine says Kamala Harris is smarter than Trump.
You know, she is not going to be intimidated. She's smart. She's tough. She knows how it all works now. She's worked at the White House. She's a vice president of the United States, and she's smarter than Trump.
Understands and can see what is possible unburdened by what has been.
Where we can be, unburdened by where we have been, and unburdened by where we are right now.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
What can be,
Unburdened by what has been.
what can be, unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
But there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
What was possible, unburdened by what has been.
What can be
Unburdened by what has been.
what can be
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
who we can be unburdened by who we have been.
Have a sense of vision about what can be, unburdened by what has been.
To see what can be
Unburdened by what has been.
what can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be, unburdened by what has been.
What can be
Unburdened by what has been.
what can be unburdened by what has been.
Unburdened.
Unburdened,
Unburdened. Unburdened. Unburdened.
unburdened,
Unburdened. Unburdened.
unburdened, unburdened,
Unburdened. Unburdened.
unburdened, unburdened by what has been.
It's down there somewhere. Let me take another look.
Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles? Right. And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams. So I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, you know, the three circles.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
Salad? How do you make a salad? First, you throw in the whole head of lettuce. Even the hard-to-eat white part at the bottom? That's what the people want.
Everything is in context. My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. So all of this is part of the work of this group of extraordinary leaders who will help inform and advise how we think about our work.
I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist in our present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future. Because when we think about the strength of our democracy, you know, I think that there's a duality to the nature of democracy. When it's intact, oh, it's so strong in terms of what it does to uphold and protect individual rights and freedoms. So strong in its nature. And it is very fragile. It will only be as strong as our willingness to fight for it.
I'm wondering what the United States is going to do more specifically to set up a permanent infrastructure, and relatedly, is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first. Okay. So.
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No, Taraji. Now, you know I wouldn't do that, especially not to a fellow bison.
The real HU? I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing?
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji. These extremists, as they say, they're not like us.
She's smarter than Trump.
Nice try, media. Erasing Kamala's prince from being in charge of the border. Here's the problem.
I've asked her, the VP, today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help us. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern.
But now, all of a sudden, Kamala was not the border czar before she was the border czar after not being the border czar.
Quote, border czar. Vice President,
Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
Maybe they wouldn't get so mad if we called her border czarina. Oh yeah, and one time Harris said she wanted to abolish ICE.
One of the decisions he made, President Biden wants Vice President Harris to be the standard bearer of the party now. Does she still want to get rid of ICE?
You have seen what this administration has been able to do in the past 3.5 years, and they did that with the vice president as a partner in that. And Republicans got in the way. The president went around Republicans and was able to get thousands of personnel at the border. And now we are seeing a 50% drop at the border. And that's because of what this president has done.
Of course, Trump managed to secure the border without the cooperation of the Democrats, but I digress. Sigh. Let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned about the invasion of privacy that is currently going on by the Biden administration? Biden's DOJ is invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation, and that's why I partnered with Freedom Chat, a private social messaging app that, like me, believes privacy is your fundamental human right. Freedom Chat has variable end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection, no storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data. I'm such a fan of Freedom Chat, in fact, that I have created my own private channel that you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never-seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, or if you're on Android, join their waitlist. Search for my channel and subscribe. No one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts that you react to. It's your own perfectly curated private news feed. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Download the app today and subscribe to my channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. Criticism of Harris is, by definition, racist and sexist.
Of course, everybody's going to default to defending Kamala Harris by talking about her positive attributes, the thing that she brings to this presidential race in the form of excitement for young people and voters of color. But it's not sufficient simply to point out the positive attributes in pushing back against these racist and sexist attacks. It's really important that everybody understand that the racism and sexism, it doesn't just exist. It's a part of a political strategy by those who are opposed to seeing a more representative multiracial democracy take shape.
And don't you dare say that as Biden's running mate in 2020, Harris was a DEI pick. Don't you dare say that.
So what do you think that Harris brings to the top of the Democratic ticket?
Not a whole lot, really, because suburban housewives are where Trump is weakest, probably, is what we've been told, and she does very poorly in that area. So
she's doing better than Biden, though. I mean,
Biden didn't do a whole lot, I don't think, and they just keep bringing Biden out continuously was just it was politically the end of him.
So you don't think that this race will be any different with her at the top of the ticket?
No, I think President Trump will actually do better. I think she will continue to stumble because the number one issue outside of all this going on up here is the border, and she is a complete and total failure at the border. She couldn't find the border if she had a compass and a map.
Congressman, going back to the hearing, Kimberly Cheadle accepted full responsibility for what happened July 13th, but will not resign. Congressman Comer asked for her resignation in the opening statement. Are you asking for her resignation as well?
Oh, 100%. She shouldn't have to resign. She should have been fired.
Do you think that her just being her profile, Harris's profile, as the first African American woman who could be the president, that could make it appealing to a lot of voters?
I always just say put the best player in. I mean, we've got a DEI hire in here, and Biden said, first off, he said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and that he just skipped over. What about white females? What about any other group? When you go down that route, you take mediocrity, and that's what they have right now as a vice president.
So are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire. He said he was going to hire, and she didn't. Her record is abysmal at best.
So DEI is the same thing as the N-word?
The other thing I'd say is that he is going to continue to use all these racist dog whistles throughout the campaign. We're going to see it from Trump, we're going to see it from J.D. Vance, and we're going to see it from a lot of their surrogates. In fact, just yesterday, one of the surrogates was saying, if we don't win, we're going to have a civil war to get our agenda through. A civil war. And so this is an organization, this is a right-wing campaign that's going to be racist, misogynistic against the vice president, but we're going to stand on the issues and what really matters. It's the fact that she is qualified. They want to call her a DEI president or DEI candidate. She has more experience than Trump and J.D. Vance combined times a million, right? She worked at the state level. She was the attorney general. She's vice president of the United States. She was a senator representing one of the largest states in the entire country. And so these are just racist dog whistles. Whenever you hear DEI, I want you to think about the N-word. I want you to think about racial slurs. That's what they actually mean.
Do you think Congressman Birch is being a racist when he says that?
I have a good relationship with the congressman. I think sometimes, though, he does use rhetoric that is racist. And whether people know it's racist or not, I'm here to tell them that is racist, and I hope they won't use that rhetoric.
Wait, I thought the left celebrates DEI.
For me, there is something wonderfully poetic about the fact that despite the fact that even if convicted, he's not going to go to prison, the first person to actually criminally prosecute Donald Trump is a black Harvard grad, the very kind of person that his former staff, the people who worked for him, Stephen Miller, et cetera, want to never be at Harvard law school. But he was. And he came out and graduated. He's prosecuting you, Donald. And a black woman is doing that same exact thing in Georgia. And a black woman forced you to pay a $175 million fine. Donald Trump is being held to account by the very multicultural, multiracial democracy that he's trying to dismantle. And for me, there's something poetic and actually wonderful about that. It says something good about our country that we're still capable of having that happen. Go DEI. My DEIs are bringing it home on today.
Hip hip hooray for DEI, except when it's the N-word. Now, do you know who said Kamala Harris is a DEI pick? Wait for it. Joe Biden.
I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president. There are a number of women who are qualified to be president tomorrow. I would pick a woman to be my vice president.
You just committed here tonight that your running mate, if you get the nomination, will be a woman?
Yes.
The vice president committed to picking a woman as his running mate. If you get the nomination, will you?
In all likelihood, I will.
Now, Biden did not say he wanted a black woman, but the pressure was on him to do just that. This is from the most trusted name in news, CNN. So his 4 finalists for VP were all black females? What a coinky-dink. Let's talk about Kamala's record as senator. The Daily Signal writes, GovTrack, a government watchdog, found Harris least likely to co-sponsor a bipartisan bill, according to the Sacramento Bee. And GovTrack assigns an ideology score, most conservative to most liberal. Newsweek reported in 2020, Harris had a 0.0, a score, again, more radical than Senator Bernie Sanders, who had a 0.02. Before she became a presidential candidate, she was going to debate J.D. Vance.
Senator Vance. Yeah, no, this is Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm wearing a black suit, and I just want to... Hello? Hello? Huh. I think we got disconnected. Yeah, I was thinking we can practice before the debate. Hello? What's your name? Jean-Claude Van Damme Pierre. We need another line. Do we have another number for him? He seems burdened by what has been. Yeah, we keep getting disconnected, Senator Vance. It's like you fell out of a coconut tree. Hello? I lost him again.
We will turn to the Secret Service in a moment. But first, a couple of questions. What would a President Harris mean for Israel? What would a President Harris mean for the Hamas-Israel war?
Kamala Harris has now been endorsed by President Biden, the Clintons, and numerous other key players to become the nominee for the Democrats. What would it mean for the Jewish people and Israel if she were to become president? Let's take a focused look at her approach to the attack on Israel and anti-Semitism in America. Less than 1 month after the October 7th massacre, the largest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust, which subsequently created a tidal wave of Jew hatred throughout the country, Harris responded by releasing a national strategy to counter Islamophobia.
As a result of the Hamas terrorist attack in Israel and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, we have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America. So today, I am proud to announce the Biden-Harris administration will develop our nation's first national strategy to counter Islamophobia.
In this clip, she talks about the October 7th terrorist massacre and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as if they are two separate, unrelated events. She fails to connect the dots that without the brutal attack on Israeli civilians, there would have been no need for a retaliation by Israel. She also fails to mention that it is Hamas themselves who have created this humanitarian crisis, leaving the viewer to only put the blame on Israel. She then mentions 3 forms of hate against Arabs: anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, and Islamophobia, and only 1 form of hate against Jews, which she mentions 3rd out of 4. The intended target of the October 7th attack was the Jews. This attack was celebrated throughout America as Jews grieved. To many Jews, a strategy to counter Islamophobia, released less than 1 month after this brutal attack, feels like a strategy to counter anti-German sentiments less than 1 month after the liberation of Auschwitz. In speech after speech, Harris has demonized the Israeli government while discussing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Israeli government must do more to significantly increase the flow of aid. No excuses. They must open new border crossings. They must not impose any unnecessary restrictions on the delivery of aid.
Notably absent from this speech and many others is the mention of the hostages, which include 8 Americans. Besides the fact that more aid has been sent into Gaza since before the war even started, Harris never mentions Hamas stealing aid or beating and killing civilians who desperately try to retrieve it. She only blames Israel. Harris also threatened potential consequences from the United States if Israel were to move forward with the Rafah invasion in Gaza.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake.
Are you ruling out that there would be consequences from the United States?
I am ruling out nothing.
How is Israel supposed to finish the job with Hamas if Hamas is still in power? Do you put out 80% of a fire and just hope the rest dies out on its own? In terms of the growing threat of anti-Semitism in America, in an exclusive interview with The Nation from the National Review, Harris gave credit to anti-Israel protesters, saying they're showing exactly what the human emotion should be. By sympathizing with these protesters who have wreaked havoc for Jews on campus, in our streets, and on public transportation, she is downplaying the very real and violent threat posed by these protesters towards American Jews. She's also ignoring their blatant calls for violence, such as globalize the Intifada, and the fact that many have told us themselves that they either support Hamas or they are Hamas.
We are Hamas!
This is not only a threat to Jews, but a threat to all Americans. Is that what human emotion should be? To conclude, Harris's recent endorsements for the Democratic nomination raise significant questions about her stance towards Israel and anti-Semitism, especially given her response to the October 7th massacre, her failure to properly advocate for the hostages, her balanced condemnation of Hamas, a designated terrorist group, with Israel, a democratic nation who adheres to the highest moral code in warfare, and her conflation of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, which many Jewish Americans view as dismissive of their concerns and safety.
Americans have had enough of supporting companies that hate our values. Tired of compromise? So am I. It's time to switch to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are an example of putting the cause ahead of profits, and that's why I'm proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all 3 major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch over to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message that you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military vets and our first responder heroes. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes it easy to switch, keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Larry. Join me and make that switch today. patriotmobile.com/Larry, patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. This brings us to the Secret Service and once again, DEI. According to the New York Post, Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle became director because of Jill Biden and a DEI-driven top advisor to Jill. Quote, 4 sources close to the Biden family, including people who interacted with Cheadle during the Obama-Biden administration, said she was well-liked by the future First Lady and her most senior aides, including top advisor Anthony Bernal. Cheadle served on Dr. Biden's second lady detail, and Anthony pushed for her, according to a Democratic insider. Anthony had no national security or law enforcement experience. He should have had no influence over the selection of the Secret Service director. Anthony is obsessed with being DEI compliant, a third source told the Post. Now the head of the Secret Service, after her disastrous testimony before Congress, has resigned when she declined to answer question after question after question.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a 9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet. A former president, likely the guy who's going to be the next president. It looks like you guys were cutting corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions, but I also want to be cautious.
You might want to, but you haven't answered, I don't think you've answered one question from the chairman, the ranking member, or me. Well, we got a lot of other people asking. We'll see if your record improves. But right now, you haven't answered, I don't think, any questions. I yield back.
And remember, she pledged to prioritize the hiring of women.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious, as I sit in this chair now, of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
We're told to be here at 9 o'clock. We have 50 officers out there to test.
For how many vacancies?
8. We have 5 men and 3 women. Promoted to inspector out of this group.
3 women.
Do you object, Inspector?
Now, who might you be?
Oh, this is Ms. Gray of the mayor's staff. She's here to monitor these examinations. This is Inspector Callahan.
Oh, yes, I know something of Inspector Callahan. And I'd like to tell you, Inspector, it is the mayor's intention that this department be brought more into line with the mainstream of 20th century thought.
Just how does he figure to do that, Mrs. Gray?
Well, for one thing, His Honor intends to broaden the areas of participation for women in the police force.
That sounds very stylish.
I think he also said something about winnowing the Neanderthals out of the department.
Well, I guess we better get on with it. Next applicant. Officer Moore?
Yes, sir.
As you know, this is the final stage in your examination. It's a rather informal test in which we try to get some line on your ability to think on your feet, your reaction to stress and pressure, your ability to apply the law in a hypothetical situation, and so on. Okay?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been on the force?
9 years.
What department?
Mainly personnel and records.
Personnel and records.
Yes, sir.
Harry?
Somehow, some way, during the questioning of the Secret Service, somehow, some way, out came the race card.
Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And let me just pick up where my colleague from Tennessee left off. Director Cheadle, was the incident on July 13th due to DEI, or rather systemic failures in communication and potentially safety protocols?
The incident on the 13th has nothing to do with DEI. The incident on the 13th has to do with a failure or a gap, either in planning or communication.
Thank you so much. In fact, I have a few articles that I will enter into the record once I wrap up that actually acknowledge a number of women specifically for their valor in their service, whether it's been in various levels of law enforcement. But, you know, I want to stick here for just a second, because earlier you had a conversation in which there was a discussion about training. And I want to talk about training, and I want to talk about the fact that there's been a little bit of dancing around as it relates to this being a suspicious person and this being a situation that was perceived to be a threat. And it seems as if there's a different analysis that takes place. One of my questions has to do with if you have any bias training that your officers undergo. And the reason that I ask that, because as a civil rights lawyer, I have learned so many times in having to deal with law enforcement that there usually is not a perception of a threat when it is a young white male, even if they are carrying a long gun. Yet a lot of times, at least in this country, when it comes to law enforcement, there is a perceived threat just by somebody having a little bit more melanin in their skin. So I'm curious to know, because a lot of times, one of the things that we have consistently pushed for on my side of things, and when I say my side, is once we are looking at a tragedy in which law enforcement made an error, is the bias training and whether or not our officers are getting it. So I'm curious to know, in some of the training that you talk about that is part of your budget, has bias training been part of that?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
The race card. Do not leave home without it. And Rashida Tlaib never ceases to amaze. This isn't about the Secret Service failures at the rally where Trump was almost killed. It's about guns and the need for more gun control.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director, for being here. You know, when we hear the headline, a 20-year-old young man with access to an assault weapon commits an act of mass violence, I mean, we've heard this before, over and over again. But the unfortunate thing is that my residents don't get a committee hearing. We have not had one committee hearing about the over 260 mass shootings that we've had, killing hundreds of people, injuring hundreds, changing their lives forever. And don't get me wrong, to many of my colleagues, I mean, I watched, and even the pool of blood, the screams, it was horrific. But it made me think about the images I saw after mass shootings at schools, grocery stores.
Yes, sir.
Harry?
Republican Representative Mace from South Carolina pulled out the mace.
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
And in case you didn't know, the director of the Secret Service, or the former director, used to be the head of security for PepsiCo.
So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812. You can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. And you want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas. We recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey Comparator's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof. You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The greatest threat facing the United States is the CCP.
The Epoch Times investigation team had studied the CCP for years, but what we uncovered was yielding evidence beyond our imagination.
With Chairman Mao, with the Prime Minister, our talks have been characterized by frankness.
The Clinton administration said, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a poison pill for China.
China's strategic goal is to make sure that the U.S. has 4 enemies, and one of them must be a terrorist group.
We are giving of our life's blood so that the Chinese Communist Party can survive and thrive.
Now to Elon Musk, his discussion with Jordan Peterson about transgenderism and what happened to Musk's own child.
Why are you willing?
And we're making some progress.
Join the club?
Yeah.
Why did they come after Musk? And Musk said it had nothing to do with Trump.
This is before supporting Trump or anything like that.
Yeah.
In fact, I supported Biden, and before that Hillary, and before that Obama. So.
Right. That's why I was asking if this comes as a shock.
I don't know if it could just be random. It could be like they didn't tell us. Why pick us? Why do such a crazy lawsuit?
Random's a bad. Even if it is random, that's still bad.
It's still
bad.
That's
just a marker of incompetence. But if it's not random, well, it seems to be highly unlikely to be random.
Yes, and also why attack SpaceX and not say Boeing or Lockheed? I think part of it might be that SpaceX is not unionized, and the Democratic Party in the U.S. is fundamentally controlled by the union.
And what does Mr. Musk think of Mr. Trump?
Well, I'm not going to, I don't sort of subscribe to cults of personality.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really just, we've got a choice of administrations, and we have to pick one.
Yeah.
I think both, there are flaws on both sides.
What do you think his flaws are? And he's a complicated person, and I've been trying to suss him out and figure him out, because some of the things that look like flaws might be advantages in disguise. Like, he seems to me to be pretty good at standing up to psychopathic bullies, for example.
Sure.
And that's kind of a useful skill, and it's not easy. You have to be a bit of a monster to manage that. And it isn't obvious to me how many of the even the divisive idiosyncrasies of Trump are the mirror image of his capacity to stand up to bullies. Right? That's a tough call, man. But so you've obviously decided to lay your efforts down on the side of the Trump administration in the forthcoming election, and so
I think it's it's really, I think we need a change of administration. I think, many years ago, I think probably the Democratic Party was the party of meritocracy and of personal freedom.
Yeah.
They used to be the free speech party.
Yeah.
And these days they seem to be the censorship party under the guise of hate speech.
Yeah.
So weirdly, in my view, the Republican Party is actually the party of that's the meritocracy party, because the Democrats are also promoting DEI, which is really just another form of racism and sexism.
It's the most pernicious form, I think, actually.
Right. So it's anti-meritocratic. DEI is fundamentally anti-meritocratic. So then
it insists on dividing people by groups.
Right.
As the primary, what would you say, conceptual distinction between individuals?
Yes.
Race,
in fact,
ethnicity, sex.
I think the Democratic Party is stoking division.
And what about the Republican Party?
My view is that at this point in the United States, the Republican Party is more in line with meritocracy and with personal freedom. It's not like I think the Republican Party is flawless. It certainly isn't. It's got its issues. There are extremists within the Republican Party that I don't agree with. But one has, it's a two-party system, essentially. You got to pick one or the other. And so you weigh the good and the bad, and my opinion is that...
And you flip the coin.
We need, that the country would be better off with the Republican administration than a Democrat. America needs a strong leader, and where you have the perception of strength. Now, you have to admire that, Trump, after getting shot, with blood streaming down his face, it could have been a second shooter, who knows? Nonetheless, was fist pumping, fight. After being shot. I mean, and this is not.
He's an ornery bastard. And he's funny too.
Yes, and he's brave. He has courage. This is instinctual courage. It's not calculated. It's not some arranged event. It's in the moment.
Well, you could see that then, because that was not a time when you're going to
see true courage in the moment.
Absolutely.
And if you want a leader who's going to deal with some very, very tough cookies out there, who's going to deal with a Putin or Kim Jong-un or
China.
Yeah, China. Or, they'll think twice about messing with Trump. They'll think twice.
Okay.
And poor Biden can't make it up the stairs, and obviously he's stepped out of the race. But nobody's going to be intimidated by Biden. It's impossible. I think they will be intimidated by a guy who was fist pumping after getting shot.
A Real Clear Markets article said Bank of America needs to come clean about debanking practices. It wrote, and I'm quoting, "More victims of Bank of America's debanking regime have come forward, including Timothy II Project International and constitutional scholar John Eastman, a friend of mine, both debanked under similar circumstances by the nation's second largest bank. The bank's lack of transparency about cancellations that suspiciously look like they are based on viewpoint is why shareholders sought a report assessing whether the bank's policies and practices pose a risk of politicized debanking. Old Glory Bank will never debank any law-abiding customer. Our mission is the Constitution. Open an account at oldglorybank.com, and when you get your debit card in the mail, activate it, and you'll get a copy of my latest book, As Goes California, at a 50% discount. oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Now, some final thoughts. Ever notice how bigoted blacks complaining about how bigoted America is do so by displaying their own bigotry against blacks who don't believe America is a bigoted country?
Last night was when the delegates officially nominated Trump, which means there was a lot of kissing on display. But no one kissed more than the senator from South Carolina, Tim Scott.
On Saturday, the devil came to Pennsylvania holding a rifle, but an American lion got back up on his feet and he roared.
Trump already picked his running mate. You don't have to do this, bruh. You know, that wasn't even the most ridiculous thing Tim Scott said. This was.
I know this is going to offend the liberal elites. Every time I say it, it offends them. But let me say it one more time. America is not a racist country.
Attention, large crowd of white people. America is not a racist country. Thanks, Uncle Tim or Tom, whichever you go by.
Notice the cheers. Attention, white Jimmy Kimmel audience, you are bigoted. Now, you remember what I told Michael Rappaport months ago about Kamala Harris? I do.
As far as the media, does it, like this whole idea, listen, I'm a white dude.
My condolences.
You know.
It's not a good time to be a white dude.
Is it not?
It's not.
I think we're getting it back, though. I feel like 2024 is going to be the white dudes are going to come up again.
When Biden was endorsed by James Clyburn, 2020. This is after Bernie Sanders won the Nevada caucuses. For a while, this guy, a self-described Democrat socialist, was their front runner. They were scared bleepless. James Clyburn endorses.
Say shitless. Say it. Say it. Come on, Larry. Come on, say shitless. Go ahead.
My father does not like me to curse.
I know.
He never did, and I cursed.
I get it. I respect you.
I cursed a lot, and my father would cringe every time I did it, and he said, "I just don't like you to do that," and so I try not to.
Just say
out of honor to my dad.
Just say it one time. Just say shitless on camera.
Bleepless. And he extracted a promise from Joe Biden that if you're elected president, I want your first Supreme Court nominee to be a black female. Biden gets the nomination. He runs with a black female. For a little while, it appeared that Dianne Feinstein might not finish out her term, and this is about 3 years ago, and Gavin Newsom said, if she can't finish out her term, I'm going to nominate a black female. That is why, by the way, they are stuck with Kamala Harris. No matter what happens, if Joe Biden cannot fog up a mirror, it will be Kamala Harris.
What is your opinion on Kamala?
I think pretty much the same as everybody else.
What is it?
Nobody's there. She was asked to get to the root causes of illegal immigration. The root causes of illegal immigration is Joe Biden! And she can't say that.
Why can't she say that? Because then
she had the most left-wing voting record, even as left-wing as Bernie Sanders when I was up there. What do I think about any of these left-wing people? That's why I wrote the book, As Goes California. Tax, spend, regulate, climate change, alarmists, soft on crime, soft on the borders. I feel that way about all of them. Kamala Harris is no different than any of the other ones.
My final question, I could continue talking to me, but you got to go. Based on everything you know, all your experience, all your thoughts, all your data, all your references, who do you predict will be the president in 2024?
Donald Trump.
Wow.
Donald Trump's going to get the nomination, very likely. And it isn't because Donald Trump is so popular, it's because Joe Biden is so unpopular. 2/3 of people believe that our economy is going in the wrong direction. Only now are people really realizing how bad the borders are. People paying 40% more for gasoline. They care about the economy. And it's going to come down to the economy. And if RFK Jr. gets in, he's going to siphon even more votes away from the Democratic Party.
He ain't getting in, man.
And I thought you were going to ask me who's going to be on the other side. This, to me, is an even more interesting question.
What do you mean?
Is Biden going to be the nominee? If Biden cannot fog up a mirror, I believe it's going to be Kamala Harris for all the reasons I mentioned. They painted themselves into a corner now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So if he runs against Kamala Harris, she's even less popular than Joe Biden.
How did the sweet Willie Brown thing get swept under the rug with Kamala? I'll end it on that. Larry Elder, I want to thank you for coming.
Told you. Awesome tweet by Jason Meister. If we just oust Joe Biden, disenfranchise millions of voters, imprison Donald Trump, abuse the FISA court, weaponize the justice system, rig primaries, remove names from ballots, raid the private residence of a former president with deadly force, shut off surveillance cameras, fabricate evidence, gag, censor, eliminate the Electoral College, expand the Supreme Court, ban voter ID, deny Secret Service resources, and flood the country with tens of millions of illegals, we could save democracy.
We're going to hold on to him by the nose, and we're going to kick him in the ass. We're going to kick the hell out of him all the time, and we're going to go through him like crap through a goose.
And last but not least, the way Trump responded to being shot, putting his fist in the air, has become an international phenomenon.
I want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by my friends at investyrefy.com. Invest in America like I do, and by Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. Speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also want to thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold Group. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you're currently using, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And be sure to patronize our sponsors. And remember, we've got a country to save.